and welcome to the Lean and Agile show. I'm your host Shaheen, and I have a dear friend of mine, Abtin, today with me. He is a well-known local project management celebrity in Toronto, if I may say. I won't do the justice in introducing him, but Abtin, welcome to the show. Please tell us who Abtin is.
Hey, good afternoon. Thank you very much. Uh, it's cool to be on this on your program here. On the heel of the long weekend. So thank you very much to you, Shine, for inviting me. And kudos to those who've joined us here today. So I really appreciate that. My name is Abtin Zohrabi. I have been a project manager within the space and within the profession for the better part of almost, I think, coming up to almost about 24 years or so.
Oh.
I'm within the GTA region, and I caught a break, many decades ago, a couple decades ago or so, within project management, and I've been through various industries, and I've kind of oscillated between technology and business. And in addition to being a project manager and a project management consultant, I'm also a professor at George Brown College, whereby I teach several key knowledge areas of project management, be it whether it's in the degree program or the liberal studies for undergraduate business students, and also supporting continuing education students where they want to kind of change, make a career change, be it from healthcare to project management, or they just want to complement their current roles and add a new flavor to their role, be it within the project management piece of it.
Oh, thank you, Optin. So you have a very diverse, I want to say, like from being a project manager to becoming a professor, helping other people, even moving from, as you said, healthcare to project management space. So tell us why exciting is this project management for you, and why are you invested in that a lot?
Well, before I tell you the why, I think it's important to kind of go back just a little to understand how I even got into this space in the first place. I got into this space completely and purely by accident.
Okay.
Prior to becoming a project manager, I was a political advisor to two premiers of Ontario. And then after that, when they lost the election, I went to become an equal advisor to a prime minister of Canada. And when he lost the election as well, I had an epiphany, and it was more like, well, what am I doing? Clearly, I've lost several elections. It really shoots your confidence, right? And so, I took the better part of about 6 months or so to see really what transferable skills did I have, what had I learned from those previous experiences, and how can I now apply it to something different. And so, an opportunity came by. At Hewlett Packard, or HP at the time, again, about 24 years ago or so. Yeah. I applied, and someone just really took a break on me. They took a chance. They gave me a break, and one can say the rest is really history, right? Yeah. I got into the space as a junior project manager, and I really enjoyed a couple things. You're interacting with people on a daily basis. You are applying your skills amongst the team in developing something, be it a tangible good or not, but there is an end goal in sight. I like the management element of it. I probably like the whole matrix management of it rather than the direct management
Okay.
of things. Um, and I like the fact that there's organizational management theories, the psychological factors, the human element of it, um, which is the reason why I entered it, and I've really just remained within it, and it's been just fascinating in that sense. I tell my students all the time. I think as a population, just generally speaking, we're all managing projects almost on a daily basis. We just don't
Right.
know. Like we don't frame it within the project management sphere, but we're all managing projects on a daily basis. And so, which is again one of those
Right.
one of the things why I've really enjoyed being in the space.
Right. And we call, and I'm sure you're familiar with this. I think what you were referring to, it was a personal retrospective time that you took, and you were personally reflecting back on yourself. And I love,
Exactly.
I love what you said, that I was trying to figure out what skills can I get to the next one, like what you were good at and what you were not good at. So it's what we are
Exactly.
talking about in this agile world of failing, but not failing all the time. But if you see a couple of times that you fail, but learn from that and then learn from that pattern and move forward, which is amazing. And so that was a huge, I guess, turning point in your career to come to a project management world. And what was in the project management world? Any turning point in that part of your career?
You know, to be honest with you, every role that I've held for the better part of the last 2.5 decades, and every encounter that I've had along the way, for me, each one of those has been a turning point. For me, each one of those has really been a break in some form, right? They've all been unique. Um,
Hmm.
but I will say that, you know, three probably stand out the most. I would say the first one is obviously me getting that break over at HP um,
Hmm.
20 plus years ago. I think that was um, pivotal and pinnacle. The other one was when I embarked um, you know into the independent space, into the independent consulting space. And I did that about 8 years ago, 3 weeks before my daughter was born. And it was just something where I said, you're either going to jump now, um, or you're never going to do it. There was an
Hmm.
opportunity, um, and again, someone took a chance on me, and I went to, and I ended up going to EQ Bank at that time, just as they were launching the digital banking platform, and again, it was a huge turning point. And I would say the most recent one was just almost 2 years ago, when George Brown took a chance on me as well.
Hmm.
I wasn't looking to be a professor. It was always one of those things where I always had in the back of my mind, I'd love to teach one day.
Right.
Um, I came across a post by um, an outgoing head of faculty, whom I was connected to, and I reached out and I said, "Listen, I'm interested. I'd love to at least explore it further and see if it's something I want to sink my teeth into." And
Right.
yeah, it's been fantastic ever since. The teaching piece of it, um, because it allows me to take what I'm learning as a professional, and apply it right into the classroom. Yes, we got the academic pieces of project management, right?
Right.
But then you couple that with the personal experiences, and it's not all uh, uh, roses and butterflies, right? And so I just want to bring that perspective into the classroom, and essentially carve out the next generation of PMs out there.
Right. I'm disappointed to say that none of these turning points has anything to do with Agile, but because that's what our focus in this podcast is a little bit on lean Agile.
As we've always discussed, our relationship is like, our professional relationship is very much like, a physiotherapist and a chiropractor, right? And so it's at some point there's an intersection, right? And that Agile piece of it, I'm definitely more involved in it, probably the better part of the last 5 years or so, than I was 20 years ago, and just because of how the various professions have evolved and have morphed. You're seeing a lot more project managers and Scrum masters and Agile coaches coming together for the common good of a project or a program, and it's been really interesting to witness and experience how these multiple professions share a space together for the common good.
Do you have any fun stories, any horror stories of like any Agile projects that you were part of that you want to share?
Oh man, I think that the ones I have been a part of, it's been more around, when Agile was coming up and everyone's like, we got to do Agile. Everyone's got to do Agile, right? As a project manager, you walk through the doors and, all right, so what's your methodology here? We're Agile. Okay. Well, what does that mean to you? Like, what do you see as being Agile? They get talking and they're like, nah, it seems quite a bit waterfall to me. Okay. We'll call it Agile now. How's that? I'm like, call it whatever you want, but what is it that you want to achieve? Again, the horror stories I've experienced, and without naming any specific organization, it has been around, while their intentions have been good, their execution has been flawed, and they thought that they knew what Agile was, or at least they thought, they know that. And they've tried to really dovetail it within the PM methodology because they don't want to completely let go of that PM methodology. And some of those projects have, they were dead on arrival. We didn't even put the wings on the plane, and they were hoping that it would take off. So that's how disastrous some of those experiences have been.
I think most of us in the Agile space have seen that as well. The way that people are, as you say, like people say we need to do Agile, right? And everyone is doing Agile, and people look at it as thinks that doing Agile is much easier than the previous version of whatever they were doing, waterfall, sequential, like whatever they did. But there's an important thing to consider in agility is that there is more planning needed because you are going faster, and when you are going faster, you need to have plans for A, B, C, D, and E outcomes. Like if A doesn't happen, we get to B. What do we have plan for that? No, probably not. If we don't get to the other one, do we have plan for that? So it's and that's what I see as the pattern. But what I want to hear from you as well, you mentioned a couple of times in when you're talking about your career, I felt lots of focus working with people as well. You put people in the spotlight as well. Um, do you believe that it's always the people problem, no matter what? Have you focused as a project manager to focus more on the people than process, or you balance them out? Uh,
You know, yeah, I mean, I think central to all of it is the
right.
human element of it, right? It's us who create the problems, but in the forms of uh, bad processes,
Mhm.
bad change management, bad organizational change management. Um, I also think that we've neglected to really focus on risk management,
Mhm.
right? To your point, it's about outcomes, and we got to plan for those outcomes. But what if A doesn't happen? What's your fallback? And what if your fallback doesn't happen? What's the fallback to the fallback? In my courses, I really try to hammer home the whole notion of risk management and how risk management is just not a phase. It's not a one and done.
Mhm.
It's start to finish, right? Or as they say, it's from cradle to grave within the project management life cycle. It's there every day. The question is, do you have your response plans? Do you have your mitigation plans? I just think as project managers,
Right.
and as I'm sure equally within the agile space, um, there just isn't enough focus on risk management, and so everything else just becomes a symptom of it, and a um, a cause and effect situation.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. Risk is a huge factor, and when typically like a part of an organization, they pick if you think about a large organization, they want to go agile, they pick a small portion of that organization or a small team that has less amount of risk associated with that because they want that to be successful. They give it the best people out there to that team and they become successful. And then when they want to propagate it to the whole organization, you don't have those two factors, risk and the talent of people is going to be huge dealing with that. But because they didn't deal with that in the small scale, they don't know how to deal with that in a large scale. So let me ask you this: is because I believe risk wherever I go and do consultation as well, like risk is a big factor to consider. Is there anything because we want to talk about the what Agile brought into project management? Is there anything that you teach these days or you see in the project management um, techniques that is happening right now that is inspired or is motivated by some of these agile movements?
Yeah, and interesting you asked me that because I listened to your last or your latest podcast, and it was with Doc Norton,
Right.
and it was around the beyond velocity. Um, you know, I see that quite a bit now. You know, on projects whereby these are not small projects; these are major transformational programs within organizations that I'm on. And it's all about velocity. It's all about output. It's, how are we tracking? What is our velocity? What is our output? And it just seems to be like, as Doc mentioned, it just seems like it's become this focal point for everybody. And what I will say to that is, and in agreement with Doc, is that it doesn't matter. The velocity doesn't matter what it is. so long as you know where you're going. I mean, if you don't know where you're going, none of it frankly matters at the end of the day, right? And so I've seen quite a bit of focus on velocity reporting as an indicator of whether or not, like, it's almost become so black and white. So if our velocity is down, we must be doing really bad, and if our velocity is up, we must be doing really good. But there's a lot of detail that's buried in there that
Right.
no one's paying attention to, right? Well, if your velocity is low, the why, right? And then the why, and another why, right?
Right.
Again, it could be for various reasons, you know. So
Right.
I'm seeing that becoming a I don't know if it's a key point or
Right.
but it's becoming major focal these days.
Right, right, right. Yeah, and I love you said ask why and why. There is a technique that I typically use. It's called five whys. It's a
Yes,
well-known techniques, right? But
exactly.
like I just want to make a point that if you ask the wrong why, you are going to get into trouble as well, right? So you need to
Yes, you got to be
be
careful not to go down a rabbit hole.
rabbit hole, yeah. Or make it a personal why didn't you do this, right? So
Exactly.
so this is a very good example of how the coaching skills and project management skills comes together, right? So if a project manager wants to figure out what's if I don't mean he has to go to find a coach to come and help him, but if he has this coaching skill, even if within himself, like apply that and get to the bottom of it, right? And at the end of it, everyone wants to be successful at the like no one wants to plan for failure, right?
Yeah, no,
Everyone wants,
and you bring up excellent points. You know, and I'm finding organizations tend to do the same thing over and over again, even though they're not aware of that they're doing it, but they're really doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. I mean,
right,
isn't that really the definition of insanity?
it's insanity. Yeah.
uh, right? And I have at times had said, well, why don't we bring in an agile coach? I mean, you want to do this agile. I mean, this was a couple engagements ago, which I said, okay, we're doing this brand new product launch, and we've been at this now for the better part of a year, and we haven't achieved desired outcomes,
Right.
right? Code is not out the door, or a line of code is not even being written yet. We're spinning. We're constantly planning. Well, at some point, the rubber needs to hit the road,
Right.
right? Why don't we bring in an agile coach? Why don't we elevate
Right.
our change, our intention of wanting to change, but let's elevate it. And so, eventually they did bring in an agile coach, after I was no longer on that program. But, I think, last time I checked in, it looks like they're going to be going to market pretty soon.
Nice.
Again, I don't know why it's so taboo as well.
Right.
I find at times I find it almost feels like big organizations. It would be them admitting defeat to themselves if
Yeah.
they brought in, if they elevated
Yeah.
their intentions of wanting to change,
Right.
but they're
Uh,
changing for the better, aren't they?
Yeah, that's another pattern that is typical when you enter a system as a coach and you want to engage with someone, right? If they haven't asked for it, like they feel that they are doing something wrong and someone is telling them to do right. So they become very defensive, right? And I guess in the organization that you were mentioning, they had to get over that we need some help, like that person might come and just be a mirror for us, right? Like whatever that kind of help they need, I don't know what that would be, but um, like the awareness of the help that we need for someone to come in, that's a very big step. And typically in our situation, in the coaching situation, someone is telling us to go and help others. That's not very helpful. If someone is asking for help, that's amazing, right? You know that as well.
Yeah, no, they have to ultimately want
Right,
uh, to elevate their change to,
right,
to you know, to your point.
right,
And they have to admit to themselves that, you know, what they're doing is not working.
right,
It's not to say that what they're doing is wrong. It's just
right.
that it's not working.
Change is a constant. You can't run away from it, right?
No,
You just,
exactly.
yeah, yeah,
How
yeah.
you
And
respond to it.
how to respond to it. So how to, I love how you put it, how to elevate your change, right? And that was the
Exactly.
whole idea behind naming my company, Elevate Change. So what else does Elevate Change brings to your mind, often now that we are talking about change?
You know, to me, it's just that what I indicated is wanting to elevate your change intentions,
Right.
um, elevate your game,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, you know, you want to go from being a performing team to a high performing team,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the gap is not like astronomical. Sometimes like the gap is that
Mm-hmm.
big, right? I mean that mindset. And so, you know, to me, it's just that it's accepting the fact and acknowledging the fact that what you've been doing till now is not working. And because of where you want to go, you need to elevate your game,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, you see that with professional sports on a daily basis. Um, a lot of teams just it's just not working. I mean, the Toronto Maple Leafs are notorious for that, right? But at some point, you want to be a champion. You want to
Right.
be a high performing team, um, and change may, you know, and results may not come overnight, but it may take a few seasons um,
Right.
to achieve what it is you want to achieve, or a few fiscals or a few quarters. But you want to essentially start putting the right pieces in place to then be able to um, elevate your game.
Yeah. Yeah, you need to be patient. People are creatures of habit. Like it's not easy to say that we change a process and the next day people just follow that process.
You
Uh,
know, and I'm seeing this just all around me. It's you know, society's just become, it's all about that
mhm.
instant gratification, that instant success. Patience seems to just be a lost art now, right?
Right,
In organizations, they'll make their changes, but they'll want instant results. And I get that they're guided by shareholder factors, but you know, on projects and programs of the sizes on which I'm typically a part of, these are not 12-month, one fiscal year,
right,
um, you know, out the door. These are multi-year, and it takes time, right? So, you know, I've always said, you know, something I've learned for the better part of the last year, because I'm training for a triathlon, and you know, you got to trust the process, and you got to be
right,
consistent,
right.
um, and I find that the results will come.
Yeah. Now that we have you, I wanted to touch base on the programs as well, because what do you see the challenges of programs that, as you say, like lots of some of them that you are involved in are multi-year programs, right? How do you see them? What are the challenges of running them in Agile? Like, um, which portions of running that program or getting to the end of the program fits for agility? What have you seen? What have you experienced?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you know, I used to be involved in a lot of tech type projects,
Right.
and I pivoted probably the last 3.5 years ago or so, I've pivoted more towards on the business side of the house
Right.
of a project, and you know, but still continuing to foster a relationship with technology, because you know there's they've essentially intersected now, technology and business as I see it. Where I really don't think that agile type projects really, or agile agility really comes into place is, if these are purely business driven processes or business driven projects, like the banks and regulatory or
Mm-hmm.
reporting. Um, but once you get into the development, let's say you want to launch a new credit card product or a new credit card system, or you want to transform a line of business, um, you know, those equally will have technology components to it. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
the technology pieces, the development life cycle, that's all. I think a lot of organizations, the conservative banks, the conservative, the wealth financial institutions, they've all bought in
Right.
terms of that agile development life cycle. I think where the challenge I'm seeing is there still is a need to, from a project governance standpoint and from a steer code lens, they still want to see high level roadmaps, and they want to see
Mm-hmm.
high level GANs.
Right.
And when you try to translate agile timelines onto a Gantt,
Right.
it's not a you see my point, right? It
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
it, it doesn't it's not black and white.
Right.
You're continuously developing, and you're continuously integrating, and you're going back and you're
Right.
reevaluating code, and you make changes. So it's not a one and done.
Right.
And so I find that the challenge now is becoming, well, how do you showcase reporting from a development lens
Mm-hmm.
into a project management, in traditional project management
Right.
view,
Mm-hmm.
so that the executives
Right.
um, can get on board.
Right. Especially if it's long run program that we
Correct.
might be learning something right now that might change our direction 6 months from now, and it might change
Correct.
some of the things. But the steerco wants to see the, like, we on track or not? Like, are we going to
Yeah,
hit?
like
We
where
are
are we on our
investing this
speed?
much money. Like, we need to be on track. Otherwise, why are we investing this much money? So those are big questions to answer.
And then they're gonna throw. Well, what's my velocity? What is your
Right.
velocity?
Right.
We're going down another rabbit
Right.
hole.
Right. Okay. Good. Good. Optin, during all these years, anything that you stumbled upon, any resource, any book, anything that you want to share with our audience to, that was, you say, if you go back and say, this was a very great article that I read and changed my mindset, or like helped me a lot. Anything that comes to your mind, or
you
any
know,
recent book?
yeah, and I think about this quite often, Shaheen. You know, time has become a
Yeah.
precious resource, and so uh, finding time to read a book has become quite challenging, especially with kids around and all. But I find that uh, two things for me. I'm big into the podcast stuff. I really enjoyed listening to Work Life by Adam Grant. He's an
Mm-hmm.
organizational psychologist, and a lot of what he says, it's all about the people at the end of the day, and how you interact with them, how do you respond to their needs, etc. So I really like Work Life by Adam Grant. Um, the other thing I started doing, um, probably about, almost 8 years ago, was drawing parallels between parenting and leadership,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I published a few times for the first few years of my daughter's life, and then I've kind of stopped doing that, but it's always in the back of my mind. And I make notes when I see similarities
Right.
between my kids and what I notice on projects slash programs, or what I witness, or how I respond to something at work. Like, maybe I can try this on the kids.
Right.
At times it works, and at times it's I fall flat on my face. Um, but those have been really, those two resources that I shared with you
Right.
are the things I really lean on right now, quite a bit. In addition, you know, um, your content has been good too.
Yeah.
I've
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed, again, listening um, to the individuals that you bring on, because everyone's got a different perspective, right?
Right.
Um, and everyone is unique in their experiences and in their journeys. Um, but it's all about, tapping in and cherry picking the things that obviously you can apply to your own situations. And
Right.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for sharing that. And Adam Grant, I just want to say I read the book, The Originals. I love that book. It's talking about like it's a little bit kind of like lean startup kind of mindset. Like you don't need to leave everything aside and then start your next big idea. There are these people that have started big industries that they started it from with leveraging what they had and addressing the risk that they had in their life. It was Adam
Yeah,
Grant's.
and a lot of them just start off by, his whole thing is about, start off by trying to just solve a problem,
Right.
right? And then eventually, like, and a lot of his case studies have been just that. It's around, you know, so and so started something just by, addressing a very niche problem, and now, um, you know, they're a $10 billion company. It's
Right. Yeah.
you know, it's not going to happen for everyone. It's not going to happen to everyone. But just kind of drawing from his insights has been great.
Right.
I've definitely really enjoyed it.
Right.
Um, so yeah.
So I have one last question before we close off Optin, and it might be a risky question to ask, like if you put a risk lens on our eyes. Um, but I'm sure you're up for it. It's a kind of like a personal retrospective question that I ask. So, would you do, or what would you do differently if you have to start all over again from the 24 years back that you started your journey?
Wow. Um, you know, I probably, with AI coming now, I've thought about this like a lot more as I've been gardening this year. Um, I probably would have loved to um, take up a trade, like be good at something with my hands,
Hmm.
be it electrical, be it tiling, um, be it something else, But then now that the time has come and gone, I've kind of transferred my professional skills into academics, and
Right.
so, like, I'm really enjoying the academic piece of it. I don't know, I really don't have a crystal ball to say how much longer I'm going to be a PM. I'd love to be a
Right.
PM as long as I can be a PM. I thoroughly enjoy the industry in which I'm a part of. I look at myself like a PM generalist. I'm not a specialist.
Mhm.
Um, so, as a project manager, my skills are transferable from tech to,
Business.
or finance or whatever. Where I probably wouldn't be able to carve a niche out for myself would be construction. But had I picked up a trade coupled with project management now, I think it would have been a different. I'd have different options.
Right. Right.
Uh, The other thing, professionally speaking, what I would have loved to do more, Shaheen, is, to get more involved in like grassroots organizations, right? Like, for example, PMI chapters or Agile Toronto, for example. Again, those are commitments, right?
Right.
And I hope that I hope when the kids are a bit older and things have kind of plateaued or stabilized for myself, that I can then give back to the professions through those means.
Nice. There's still time. Like we
there's I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah. Abtin, is there anything that we needed to talk about that we didn't get a chance and you want to at the end of the show talk about it?
No, it's again, I really appreciate you having me on, and I hope it's been beneficial for those who've joined, and I thank them. Should folks want to reach out and connect, I'll be on LinkedIn. I'm quite active, in terms of postings and content development, and your Slack channel. So I'm plugged in, so folks will have an opportunity to reach out should they want to.
Yeah. Thank you, Abtin. I was going to ask you how people can reach out to you. I'm glad that you answered that question. With that, I want to thank you for spending the time with us and being on the show. And best of luck. Hopefully sometime again later we have you on the show as well.
Appreciate it, Sean.